New developments in the case against Bionca Ellis, the woman accused of killing 3-year-old Julian Wood. Court documents show her attorneys have filed a motion asking to change her plea to not guilty by reasons of insanity.
She was seen smirking at the cameras at her arraignment. Her bail was set at $5 million. And according to police, she not only stabbed the child, but also stabbed the child's mother as they were leaving the grocery store. The victim, 3-year-old Julian Wood. This is this precious little angel.
Julian died from his injuries. His mother survived. Ellis was previously ruled competent to stand trial after receiving mental health treatment.
It was supposed to be a quick trip to the grocery store. A mom, her son, and a cart full of groceries. But within moments of stepping outside, their world was torn apart when a woman approached them. What happened in that Cleveland parking lot shocked the entire nation, not just for its brutality, but because it appeared to be completely random. Hi, I'm Katie Ring, true crime analyst, self-defense instructor, and fierce advocate for victims. And this is Crime House Daily, your weekday true crime companion, a Crime House original powered by Pave Studios. We follow the cases making headlines now, where justice is still unfolding. This is a first watch episode bringing you today's biggest crime stories. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Crime House Daily so you never miss an episode. This episode discusses active criminal cases and breaking news. The information we share is based on what's publicly available at the time of recording and may change as new evidence comes to light. We aim to inform, not to decide guilt or innocence, so everyone mentioned is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Today, we're covering two major cases in the news. The first case takes us to Cleveland, Ohio, where the trial of 32-year-old Bionca Ellis is underway. She's accused of stabbing 3-year-old Julian Wood to death in a grocery store parking lot, and her mental competency has been in question for months. Now, she's facing aggravated murder charges in a trial that's playing out as we speak. The second case turns to Houston, Texas, where 42-year-old Gonzalo Leon Jr. stands accused of shooting and killing 11-year-old Julian Guzman after the boy and his cousin played a ding-dong ditch prank at his doorstep. He's now facing first-degree murder along with other charges and has demanded a speedy trial, which means new developments are happening quickly. Before we get into today's cases, I want to talk about a case that's made its way back to the spotlight, and it's the Tinder Swindler. Simon Leviev, better known to many as the Tinder Swindler, who even had his own Netflix documentary, was arrested again on September 14th in the country of Georgia after being tied to new fraud allegations. He built his notoriety by posing as a wealthy heir and scamming women, persuading them to lend him money under false pretenses. This time, he's accused of defrauding a woman out of more than $52,000, including unauthorized charges tied to hotel and travel expenses. A Georgian court has remanded him in custody for up to 3 months as extradition requests are sorted. Later this month, we'll have a whole Night Watch episode unpacking the Tinder Swindler's new charges and insane backstory, so be sure to check it out. Today's first case takes place in the parking lot of the North Olmstead Giant Eagle, a grocery store in the western suburbs of Cleveland. On a Monday afternoon, June 3rd, 2024, Bionca Ellis walked up to a woman pushing a shopping cart and murdered her toddler sitting in the cart basket in front of her. Her trial started with opening statements just last week on October 6th, but there was no guarantee the proceedings would get this far because there was a lot of uncertainty over Bionca's mental competency to stand trial. And before we talk about where her case currently stands, let's go back to the very beginning. On the afternoon of June 3rd, 2024, 38-year-old Margot Wood is out shopping with her 3-year-old son, Julian, affectionately nicknamed Juju. Those who know him say Julian was an incredible kid. According to his family, they loved his laugh, his cheesy smile, and his rambunctious attitude. Julian loved dinosaurs, going to school, doting on his new baby sister, and wrestling with his older brother. And in one terrible, tragic moment, it was all ripped away. Margot and Julian head out to the grocery store and she stops the cart by the car. While Margot is busy opening the trunk, a 32-year-old woman named Bionca Ellis comes out of nowhere and allegedly stabs Julian. Margot reacts quickly, grabbing Julian out of the car, and then in the process, Bionca allegedly stabs her as well. Several witnesses see the attack and call 911 as Bionca walks away. First responders descend on the scene. While paramedics rush Margot and Julian to the hospital, police find Bionca walking down a nearby road, still carrying the kitchen knife she used in the attack. She's arrested without putting up any resistance and is taken into custody. And while Margot recovers from the attack, her son Julian is beyond help, and he dies from his injuries. While his family mourns, the local police get to work solving his murder. They start investigating and come to believe this was a random attack. Bionca had no prior interactions with Margot and Julian, and there hadn't been any conflict inside the store. Surveillance cameras recorded Bionca wandering around the store, waving her knife, which she allegedly had stolen from another shop nearby. Then something about Margot and Julian grabs her attention, and she follows them out to their car. Even stranger, Bionca doesn't have a history of violence. Before this case, Bionca had been charged with stealing from Walmart in 2023, and that was it. Even then, she was only convicted of a reduced charge of unauthorized use of property, and she had been arrested for breaking her probation on that case the week before the Golden Eagle incident. But she didn't have any known violent criminal history. But something allegedly drove her to violence that day, and the authorities charged Bionca with 8 offenses, including 1 count of aggravated murder due to Julian being a child. She remains in custody on a $5 million bond as the case against her proceeds. Meanwhile, Julian Wood is buried on June 8, 2024. A couple months later, to celebrate his life, the community works with a local artist to paint a mural on the side of a building across from where Julian lost his life. It's a big green dinosaur in honor of things Julian loved. 2 days after Julian's funeral, Bionca's arraignment is held in court. Her lawyers originally enter a not guilty plea, but their strategy quickly changes. Bionca appears via video call while Judge Nancy Margaret Russo asks her a series of questions. Bionca keeps her head down and mostly fails to respond. When she does answer, it's unclear whether she wants to cooperate or even knows how to. She answers questions with questions of her own and asks for clarifications. Eventually, her lawyers point out that they're dealing with some mental health issues and mention the fact that she might be off her medication, but they don't mention what that medication was. Eventually, Judge Russo decides that Bionca needs to be physically brought to the courtroom, but it's a struggle to get through the proceedings. When Judge Russo asks her questions, Bionca opens her eyes wide and she whispers. She says she doesn't know if her indictment has been read to her. She didn't read it herself, she didn't want to read it, and she asked the public defender not to read it to her. To put it plainly, she doesn't want to hear what she's done, but she has to. So to keep the process moving along, the judge decides to read the indictment in open court. It's pretty clear that whatever is happening here, something isn't right with Bionca. So when she comes back to court on July 16, 2024, the state requests to have her sent to a forensic psychiatrist so they can determine if she is even competent to stand trial. On July 16, 2024, prosecutors for the state of Ohio asked for Bionca Ellis's competency to be evaluated before she goes on trial for the murder of 3-year-old Julian Wood. Having the competency to stand trial means that someone has the ability to do 2 things: communicate effectively with their legal team and fully comprehend their surroundings. They must be able to understand that they're in court defending themselves from criminal charges in front of a judge and possibly a jury. And they must be able to participate and aid in their own defense. The standard is pretty lenient and will usually be met except in cases of serious mental illness. But the prosecution thinks they might be dealing with that here, and it's important to know what the ruling will be as soon as possible, because if a defendant is deemed to have been incompetent during trial, the case could be dismissed and charges would have to be refiled. Nobody wants to go through that, so the defense doesn't object to the motion and it's granted. As requested, Bionca goes through a 20-day evaluation, and her doctor determines that she is not competent to stand trial, at least not at the moment. However, there's a 1-year limit on whether she could be restored to competency in time to still go on trial. And the doctor thinks she could get Bionca on the treatment she needs to be ready by then. So Bionca goes back for more treatment. And on February 3rd, a little under 7 months after Julian Wood was murdered, Bionca's doctor reports that she's competent to stand trial. A doctor's report dated February 3rd recommends that Bionca can now participate in the trial and could understand the nature and objectives of the proceedings that she faces. And on Tuesday, February 11th, 2025, the judge ruled that the case can proceed. Now Bionca's lawyers plan to argue that she is not guilty by reason of insanity. Without getting too deep in the weeds here, there are some key differences between competent to stand trial and the insanity plea. Competency is all about whether a defendant understands what's going on at their trial, while insanity tackles what their state of mind was during the crime itself, to see if they understand the difference between right and wrong when it comes to their actions. So that means Bionca's lawyers aren't necessarily trying to challenge that she killed Julian Wood. Instead, they'll try to argue that she didn't understand what she was really doing to him. We'll see how that strategy plays out, and we should know soon because, as I mentioned at the top, opening arguments were last week, and this trial is happening right now. We're keeping a close eye on this one. We'll be watching for any news and bring you all of the major updates. For today's second case, we're covering 42-year-old Gonzalo Leon Jr., a man who is accused of shooting and killing an 11-year-old boy who played a prank on him. On the evening of August 30th, 2025, 11-year-old Julian Guzman went to a family member's birthday party on the east side of Houston, Texas. He and his cousin got bored and decided to play Ding Dong Ditch in the nearby Galena Park neighborhood. In case you're not familiar with this time-honored prank, it involves ringing someone's doorbell and running away before they answer. And around 11 p.m. that night, Julian and his cousin knock on Gonzalo Leon Jr.'s door and run away. In true childish fashion, they make sure to do it several times. 3 times over the course of 15 minutes to be exact. After all, the point is to annoy someone. And reportedly, Gonzalo, an Army veteran with experience in the Texas National Guard, is very annoyed by the repeated interruptions. At the time, he's at home with his wife and toddler-aged daughter, and he allegedly decides to do something about it. The final time the boys knock, they see a man come out of the gate as they run away. He'd been waiting in the shadows around the side of his house, dressed in all black and carrying a pistol. If he didn't know that it was just a couple of kids ringing his doorbell, he likely does now. But that doesn't stop him. He follows the kids out and stands near a stop sign next to the house. Then he shoots a single round into the ground before he lifts the gun and fires another. This time, he aimed towards the boys. The second shot hits Julian in the back. He falls to the ground crying in pain and calls out for help, saying he can't move. His cousin thinks Julian's been paralyzed, so he starts to drag him away. One of the neighbors sees this and runs over to help. At the same time, the shooter, who is presumed to be Gonzalo, walks back into his house. When the police arrive at the crime scene, Julian is transported to a local hospital. Tragically, his wounds are too severe and he dies the next day. Meanwhile, Houston homicide detectives detained and questioned Gonzalo Leon Jr. at home, but that night they let him go. However, the police aren't done with him yet. Although police let him remain free after they initially questioned him, Gonzalo is their main suspect. On September 2nd, 2025, 3 days after the shooting, a SWAT team arrests him at a La Quinta hotel in La Porte, Texas, about 20 miles from his home in Houston. Since then, he has been held in the Harris County Jail. After the arrest, the police search Gonzalo's house and find approximately 20 guns. He has pistols, shotguns, and at least 4 AR-style rifles. On September 19th, just 3 weeks after Julian died, Gonzalo's indicted on a charge of first-degree murder by a Harris County grand jury. Later on, he's also charged with injury to a child and aggravated assault. These last 2 charges have been a point of contention. One of Gonzalo's attorneys has accused the prosecution of hedging their bets, since these charges require less evidence for a conviction than murder. And that's just one of the several issues that have come up. A couple days before Gonzalo was indicted, his lawyers asked the judge to reduce his bond amount because it was set after the court allegedly received incorrect information. The prosecution claimed that Gonzalo had a prior charge in Guadalupe County, Texas, where he was arrested for an alleged terroristic threat against his sister in 2019. They said she claimed he threatened her and her kids, saying that he had a green light which she interpreted as permission to kill. But the case was dismissed 2 months later because it turned out the situation involved a different Gonzalo Leon. However, even with this new information, the judge refused to decrease the bond amount. She said that previous charges had nothing to do with it. She was only considering the case at hand. In fact, when the prosecution brought the additional charges of injury to a child and aggravated assault, she raised the bond amount from $1 million to $1.3 million. On September 17th, attorneys went head-to-head on a motion filed by the defense. Gonzalo's attorneys claimed that the Houston police illegally seized his phone the morning after the shooting, without a warrant and before he was arrested. But the prosecution argued that the phone was critical evidence. They said it could show them burglary alarm records and that GPS data could also show if he went outside the house that night Julian Guzman was killed. In this instance, the judge ruled that the court doesn't have the authority to mandate that Gonzalo's phone be returned to him, but there's more evidence for them to fight over. The prosecution claims that they've provided everything to the defense, including over 100 pages of a police report, 911 calls, thousands of photos, and hours of body-worn camera video. But according to Gonzalo's lawyers, they're still missing the body cam footage from the 2 first responding officers and a video from the victim's cell phone. They've also requested the SWAT team audio and video recordings of Gonzalo's arrest, the statement from his wife, the statement Gonzalo gave during the interrogation, an extraction of Julian's cell phone, any search warrants related to the case, and any surveillance videos. And they're not just focusing on their client. They also want information on Julian Guzman's older cousin, who was playing ding-dong ditch with him that night. Gonzalo's lawyers want information relating to an unlawful carrying of a weapon charge against Julian's cousin. Specifically, they want access to information about a stolen pistol that was allegedly in his waistband. We should know a lot more soon, because Gonzalo Leon Jr. has asked for a speedy trial, which means it has to start within 120 days. And there's still so much ground to cover on both sides. With the next hearing set for October 21st, we should be learning more soon. This case may seem cut and dry, but as you can see with all of the legal wrangling going on, there should be a lot more information coming out. We'll be monitoring it every step of the way, and when there are any major updates, we'll be sure to bring them to you. What did you think of today's cases? Drop your thoughts and theories in the comments. See you next time. If you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Crime House Daily and follow us on social media at Crime House 24/7 for real-time updates, because the pursuit of justice never stops.